while I refresh.
I know we're live now.
Oh shit! Hello, right? Welcome to Beernomicon Live with Cvlt of Independence, our first instalment of that, and we are joined by Will from Bernie's grocery store, who's here, and Noah from Chapter, who's that way, who's dressed as the can. Well, nice.
Yeah, I mean, you all said you're going to do it, and it was only me.
So we're here to talk about Bernie's and Chapter, and also the collaboration beer they recently did called Netting the Sun, which we apologize because that we planned it, and we'll talk a bit more about the store and the brewery as well. So Noah, could you give us a little bit of info about the brewery first before we get into the beer?
Yeah, so we launched in 2016. It was just briefly a two-person setup before I ended up going alone, and we run a 10-barrel kit, but we tend to push it to around like 9-barrel or 11-barrel depending on the brew. I used to be an English teacher, history graduate, and then an English teacher. So all the beers have a kind of literary bent to them. It could very easily turn into something quite wanky if you just say it's all about literature, but we try and make it as accessible as possible, in so much as if you want to learn about what inspired the beers, you can look it up on the back of the can, or you can just drink it like a normal person. Absolutely fine. We try and cover a broad range of beers. We don't tend to make hazy pales as a general rule, but we might start doing that so we can make some money at some point. And we just like trying to make interesting beers on cask predominantly, and can.
Sound. And Will, Bernie's is kind of a brightly new venture, I guess. Like we were talking a little bit today when I came around to pick up some cans. It's been 2 months to be open now. Could you tell us a bit about Bernie's?
Yeah. So we built it as like a responsibly sourced grocery store. It's in Heaton Moor, which is like a really nice part of Stockport, which is really close. It's just the other side of the Mersey. So like Didsbury's like 10 minutes away, Burnage, Levenshulme. Really, really lovely, lovely suburb. I got made redundant from Hawkshead in April when Halewood decided to sort of restructure the business. And then I was looking at stuff to do. And then I initially saw like a greengrocers in Northern that I sort of fancied having maybe taken it over, maybe reinterpreting what it was about, making like a hub for the community. And then that didn't work, basically, like financially. And then me and my partner Beth, we were looking around for stuff, and then we saw a unit in sale that got taken by hairdressers. And then literally first week of when hard lockdown got opened, I went to see the unit in Heaton Moor and basically just accepted it straight away. So really good, responsibly sourced grocery store, organic veg, wine, booze, small producers. I mean, essentially what me and Beth have just done is opened a store that we would really like to shop in. And it's negated saves us about £600-700 a month on our own groceries, which is amazing. But we're just trying to do something cool. We're trying to support like new food and drink sort of people coming through, and make a nice little hub for the community, sell some really cool stuff. We got the keys middle of June, we opened middle of July. So I think like turnaround, we're talking about 12 weeks basically, from like sort of idea to getting a small business loan and then opening, and then we're 8 weeks in now. A bit of a mad whirlwind essentially.
And you've got your first collab in now as well. So fine.
Well, that was always going to happen.
So the collab was part of the Cvlt of Independence, which we've been doing. I think. Oh yeah, me and Tom are part of Beernomicon, by the way. Which probably should have said that. So that was we've started. Well, Tom came up with the idea of Cvlt of Independence a few months ago.
Yeah, that was I was in a pretty down place. I was like, I need to do something kind of positive. And it kind of it's in the middle of the first lockdown, because we're going to start the second lockdown next week, I think. And yeah, I just hated to see so many kind of small businesses have like an immediate struggle because of COVID, and people panic buying, but not looking to their local shops, like Friends shop, a Replen shop. You had tons of flour, and people just rushing straight to the supermarkets, and like these big businesses start benefiting from like fear mongering and like all the bad shit. And then obviously breweries start kind of slowing down, not producing cask as much because all the pubs are closing. And in my mind, it just made sense to kind of pair the two together to make beers, to highlight the importance of supporting small shops.
Yeah, I think we tweeted a few things out at the start of lockdown, and I think for some people it kind of seemed like round and go, like people who buy beer from the supermarket, and that wasn't the case. You know, some people can't really go out every day and buy craft beer or whatever. And that was the thing. Is just if you could do, you should probably go out and support local independent beer.
Well, that's it. It's about spreading your money instead of just giving it all to the same people. Like, we all should be probably spending less on Amazon, but
yeah.
I mean, having some headphones tomorrow is always a pretty decent deal for me. So it's just trying to do the little things.
Yeah. So then out of that came the beer we're gonna drink now, because I'm itching to try it. I haven't tried it yet. So can you tell us a little bit about Netting the Sun, Noah?
Well, Will, do you want to talk about the name behind it first, and then we'll talk about the beer itself?
Oh, well, right. So I'm a Bolton lad, which is quite first place to go into lockdown. Ironically, second wave, get your surfboards out.
First means best, surely. So
yeah, exactly. Like the bully at school will be buzzing about it. So Netting the Sun, because obviously, like, Noah's got the literature thing going on. This is actually the second beer that me and Noah brewed together, which is super cool. We've become like really good friends.
Well, friends.
Yeah, well, ish. And then so I went to school in Rivington, which is like West Pennine Moors. Beautiful area, not that well known, even by people from Manchester, even though it's super close. It's like 30 minutes away from Manchester City Centre.
It's funny because I used to go up around what's that big lake called? Anglesart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go for walks around there, and then when Ross was like, "Oh, going camping in Rivington," I had a Google. I was like, "Oh, fucking hell, it's right next to it." I had no idea.
Yeah, it's nuts, and like growing up when I left Bolton when I was 18, and then you sort of you don't appreciate where you grow up until you get a little bit older and not as cocky and arrogant. And I really love that area, and we've got mates up at Rivy Brew Co that are doing an amazing job. Well, I wanted, when me and Noah were chatting, I wanted to sort of, we knew what sort of beer style we wanted to make. And then my partner Beth, actually, we were looking at stuff around the area, and we found this poet who lived up in Rivington and called Phoebe Hesketh. And her collection of works is called Netting the Sun. Which is a really lovely name, and then it sort of fits with a beer style, like a hoppy wit or whatever. And that was it. Like we really want to. Well, I really wanted to sort of. It's a nod to where I grew up and where we went to school, and like an area that's like really important to me essentially. And the other tie-in is that, so me and my partner are having our first baby in like a week or something crazy.
Congrats.
And I was adamant that it was a boy at first, and so my granddad on my mum's side was a ranger up in Rivy for United Utilities, and he was called Bernie. So I thought we were having a young boy, like for like our first baby. So I was like, we're going to call him Bernie. Turns out we're having a girl. So we're not having Bernadette. So the shop got the name essentially, and then that's woven its way into the collaboration essentially.
Nice. So why witbier then? Why was that the style you was that what you both kind of wanted, or was that kind of one?
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about it when we saw when we kind of asked what we wanted to do. A witbier is something that I quite like. I don't see them very often, and to be honest, I don't really drink them very often because I don't necessarily seek them out. But I really wanted to play with a quite high percentage of wheat. And when we kind of were talking about that, I was talking about maybe a Hefeweiss or something like that. We do sours with a good chunk of wheat in them anyway. But we just thought, well, let's go for a wit and see what we can do with it and make it quite a classic wit in some respects. The coriander and that sort of thing. But we wanted to kind of play with it a little bit. I mean, I can talk about the composition of the beer if that's of any interest. Yeah. So in terms of what's in the grist, it's 45% wheat, mostly wheat malt, a little bit of torrefied malt in wheat in there as well, and then it's 37% pills, and then we chucked in some oats and a bit of Munich in there as well, just to try and make it a little bit more of a complex malt body than you kind of necessarily get with a normal wit beer. We fermented it quite high, mashed it quite high to try and kind of get a bit of body in there. And then we were just messing around with different kind of adjuncts to add in towards the end of the boil. So we used chamomile in a couple of our other beers. And it's a very, very divisive flavour we found. But we thought we'd lob it in this anyway. So we just put a little bit of coriander in there. A little bit of coriander in at the end of the boil. We also chucked chamomile in there as well, which again some people really seem to can pick out really, really strongly. But we chucked some of that in, and then we put orange, lemon, and grapefruit zest in there, and we just shoved it all in at the underback. So we've got quite a underback with a filter in the bottom. So it's almost like its own little mini kind of hop back mash tun thing. So we lobbed all that in there, and we just used very kind of traditional hops, in as much as quite traditional hops you'd use in a wit beer. But I forgot to buy the kind of Hallertau, so we went for East Kent Goldings, which is as close to that as we could get with what we had to hand. But I think it's worked quite nicely, really. And then when we were kind of playing with the fermentation, we fermented it relatively warm. We just used T58 and just let it run. And we kind of wanted to get something a little bit more kind of fruity and zesty coming from it. So we added Amarillo, Citra, and Willamette in it again. Again, the Willamette for a little bit of spice, the Amarillo for these more orangey flavors, and the Citra to kind of bulk out the already kind of citrus flavors that you're getting from the coriander and the zests. And then I think just at the back of it all, you just get that little hint of chamomile. Some people again are receptive to it and will pick it out, but I think it's quite nice and subtle in there. I think if you go too over the top with it, it can be a bit much. That's the kind of composition of the beer, and what we wanted to do is just make something which was very crisp, refreshing, not super dry, but something that was going to be very, I hate to say it, but drinkable. And we went on that kind of after a bike ride kind of thing, almost like that isotonic drink. I think at like half marathons in Manchester, they dish out Erdinger and all that kind of stuff. We wanted something to be very drinkable, very summery, something that would reflect the color of the can and the kind of sunshine and the sunflower, all those sorts of things that we were trying to get into the beer. And I think we've done a good job with it.
Yeah, I'm like traditional like Belgian wit style is always like kind of too much. The smell always reminds me of like my nan's hairspray or something, but it's got a nice hint of that, but it's still like drinkable. It's still got reminiscence of like a low ABV pale ale. You still got that, like I said, the drinkability of it and that, and it is kind of bright to drink with a bit of coriander on the end of it, like. And
it's not a massive dry hop either. It's about 4 grams per litre, so it's nothing huge. But I think it really added something to it, because we were umming and ahhing about whether or not we should dry hop it at all.
Yeah.
And kind of Will was pretty adamant it should be a low dry hop, which I think was the right choice.
Yeah. It's like the sort of like nuance thing. Like wit beers for me are all about nuance, but like balance of flavour. Nothing's overpowering. I mean, the story of wit is like a really cool story about Celis. What's he called? Basically, like Celis Wit is like this. You can read about it online. This mad guy who like started Hoegaarden and then he started a brewery in America. And then, well, he started Hoegaarden, and then he had like a brewery that burnt down, and then he moved to America and started a brewery, and then started making the same Hoegaarden sort of style recipe. But then InBev had that recipe, so started making Hoegaarden separately. And it's a beer that I brewed when I was at Summer Wine as well. So we did like a very trad wit. We did it pretty much identical to the original sort of recipe. So like East Kent Goldings, Curacao at the end, no dry hop. Summer Wine, rest in peace. Yeah, Paul, one for my homies. Like fucking amazing brewery. So it was a bit of that. And then when I used to do, when I worked at the Beagle in Cholton, we used to do like beer and food pairing. And wit beer was always great with food. It's not, it's not too hoppy. It's not too big. It just like accents like flavor really well. So I love it when Noah brought the cans in when they'd just been canned. It's great, and like the dry hop per liter is like 10% of what some people are doing like nowadays. But it really works. It's still really hoppy. Like there's just not loads of stuff going on. Well, there is, because there's a spice and everything.
I was gonna say, there's so much going on, but because it's all so subtle, it plays off everything so well.
Yeah.
Like, for me, you drink, if you're not paying attention, you're like, oh yeah, it's a wit beer. But when you start kind of thinking about everything that's in there and picking it out, like the grapefruit kind of chamomile is so huge right at the end, you could almost believe that you're drinking an iced tea.
Yeah. We're super happy with it. And then like customers who've had it at work, like, who've bought it from store, like really engage with it. And it's not, it's not your archetype of like a sort of like craft beer drinker. It's like, it's people that drink a bit of decent beer, but they've tried it and it's really, they're like, oh, come back in store and go, oh my God, it's great. Like, and that's, it's super positive. Essentially it does what we wanted it to do.
Yeah, you did not want anything like, you didn't want something super niche, like kind of arsey, to be fair. Like, you didn't want to do anything like go that way.
No. Well, yeah, I'm too old and jaded for that shit.
Well, it's great because, like you say, you've got all your different foods and stuff in, and it could be a great accompaniment for pretty much, I imagine, most things that you sell in the shop. Doesn't matter which, it'll go well with all of them.
Like really nice, like cheese, some cured meat, like if you're making nice like mozzarella, tomato salad, like something nice, and it's really good.
We've had it on. We only managed to do a few kegs of it, and we've had it on our tap room the last kind of two weeks that we've been open, and worried because we've basically run out of pale. And I was a bit worried that this, as a substitute, might not really swing it, but we've absolutely hammered through it. Mm-hmm. It's been really, really popular. And, I was surprised that it was as as accessible to everybody as it has been. And yeah, it's nice to see people trying it and coming back and being patient with, you know, the setup that we've got to actually want to come and drink this beer, and to be able to explain about where it's come from. The story of the name is really nice, how that ties into what Will's not only doing but what has happened previously with his grandfather and all that sort of stuff. And then to be able to talk about what you guys are doing over at Beernomicon and the idea of the Cvlt of Independence. You know, the story is quite kind of literally what we're all about, really, and that idea of being able to bring those threads together is really nice.
It's very accessible as well, because if someone came into the tap room and didn't know what a wit beer was or hadn't tried one before, they could still, because of the pale ale aspect to it, because of the fruits you're getting from it, you know, you can still dive into it and just kind of see it as a nice pale ale that, you know, you could easily pintable.
Yeah, there is that.
I thought it's got a bit of a like an orange juice and lemonade kind of thing going on.
But then there is that thing as well where you can just, like, you know, if you read your customer essentially, you know, you can just be like, well, have you tried Hoegaarden? And they're like, well, yeah, of course I have. Like, and then that, it works on that sort of like thing as well. It's it's really cool. We had the
brew day then. How was the socially distanced brew day?
It was good for me. I just sat at home.
Yeah, sat at home eating crisps.
Yeah.
But no, it was, again, that was something that we very, very carefully kind of deliberated it. It was always going to be an interesting kind of challenge to do that anyway, if we were going to have Will coming over to do a brew. And then the next day, I think it was, or the day prior, it was the lockdown, the tightened restrictions in Greater Manchester. So we kind of ummed and ahed about it, and then thought, well, realistically, the most sensible thing to do is to not have Will here at the brewery. So what we decided to do instead was do it all through social media. Like we talked about it, knew what we were going to be doing, and I thought, well, I don't usually chronicle brew days very well on Instagrams, but I kind of tried to make it as interactive as I could, and it was good fun, you know, kind of running around, taking videos of stuff, and it was nice to have that little bit of a record of the brew day as well, and to be able to kind of know that it was part of something. It just definitely was a collaboration. It was just that we didn't get the nice lunch that Will promised us.
Yeah, I did take him a veg box like 2 days later.
Yeah.
Not just a veg box, like put your Marks and Spencer's voice on and just say not just a veg box. Yeah, I think it fits really well as well, because obviously, like, everyone throughout lockdown has had to, like, you know, sort of do new things to socialize. I mean, like, in the first like 3 weeks, everyone's like Zoom quiz every night, and like, you know, beer. I've got a big, amazing like bunch of mates, and we were like, yeah, pub on the Friday. So we I'd sit upstairs, Beth was downstairs, and we drink beers, and I get pissed in our spare bedroom. But that all fell by the wayside by like week 5, because everyone couldn't be arsed with it anymore. And it's like, oh, what have you been up to? Nothing, obviously.
Well, this is a bit like a weird flashback doing this.
Yeah.
Well, I've got my quiz for you. So we've got a quiz question for the end. So
yeah, we're gonna do a quiz. We're gonna do a beer quiz. But I think it just worked really, really well. I mean, for us, like as a store, like social media wise, like we just lead on stories on Instagram, and that really works for us, because it's that hype thing. It's like, come and get it when it's available. You know, this is new. You should come and visit us. And I think like sharing, you know, the stories about the brew day, I think it built the momentum. I think I need to order some beer actually, no, because we've sold like 3 cases in the last like sort of 2 weeks, which is we're not a beer shop. We're, you know, beer for us is like an add-on. Like, people grab it after they've got the shop in, you know. So with like Epicurean do like an amazing job round the corner, and they're beer focused, but we're food focused, but with the add-ons of the beer and the wine. So we've done like, some decent numbers. We might sell like, 20 or 30 beers a week, which is not crazy, but we've sold through like 3 cases of the collab, which is great. I've drank a bit, but
I think it's interesting what you're saying, Will, about the Facebook stories, because you've kind of the Instagram story stuff, because you've got the fleeting nature of those stories and the kind of immediacy that brings, and the fact that they go and they move on. And a lot of the produce that you've got is that kind of the freshness and the rapidity of the stories kind of ties in with how quickly you need to get the fresh goods and the new stuff coming in. You've got new things coming in all the time.
Yeah,
and I think it's working well for you, and you're doing the Instagram stories like from the start, like the brand itself with the stylized fruit and veg, and putting that stuff all through the Instagram so early on before you'd even open the doors. That built up a style that you're able to then kind of work off, and I think that's something which I think you're saying something about. A couple of people came in and said you're not putting posts on your Instagram feed.
No,
all through stories, and I think that's something which I've noticed more and more people are heading that way.
Yeah, I mean the Reels thing is the next one, but I think that's more like a catchment of like people that aren't specific to your demographic. Where we've
Is that not Vines? Is that just Vines under a different name? Is it?
Oh no, it's TikTok basically. Yeah. But that like has order
now. It's just like.
But what I'd like to think we've done really well is we've built up like a quite specific audience to the shop that we don't have people following us because they're just following because it's cool or whatever. We have people following us because they're a potential customer. So yeah,
I mean, we don't have either as followers. So
you've got your one-word tweets though. That's my most favorite format on Twitter. Surely.
Oh, I do. Sorry.
It's a new format, and it's working really well for us. I found.
I deleted Twitter last week. Got rid of it. I've had a
Twitter.
Yeah, well, no, I deleted my account, which I've had for about 10 years, and then deleted it off my phone because I've just not got time for it anymore.
I spent 20 minutes trying to find Will Provisions to tag you in a picture.
Yeah. Deleted it. If you've ever seen the South Park about like Cartman, where all his thoughts go to an online social media platform, it's basically just that now. But South Park are always like way ahead of the game when it comes to like satire, basically.
So we touched on a bit of like lockdown and pandemic that we're all currently in, and we'll probably all going back into another lockdown soon. Obviously, Cvlt of Independence is about like independent businesses, and how have you both found the last 4, 5, 6 months, business-wise as well? Obviously, being small independent businesses.
How he coped is what I think he's trying to say.
What exactly? Do you want me to go first? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting for you because you opened in the environment, so you've got a slightly different view on it than I have. So yours might be a better one to kick off with.
Yeah, mine's actually really positive. I'm going to take my glasses off because it's just reflecting. Well, obviously, like being made redundant wasn't ideal, but Halewood were a big company and they had to do what they did with Hawkshead. I was pretty frank with them guys when they sacked Matt, who's like been there since Hawkshead started, and I basically just said to them because we had to go through a process about redundancy, and like I wouldn't have stayed anyway with Matt not being there. And I basically just said to him, well, you'll never sell beer in the independent sector again, like full stop. But yeah, I mean, it's still a great brand, Hawkshead, and still got a lot of time for it. But it is what it is. But I think for us, it's been, I was pretty was pretty. I mean, there wasn't many categories that survived through lockdown. So like a grocery store was, you know, it was a guarantee that we could open a business and I could provide for like myself and my partner and our new baby. And even if some like a lockdown came in again, we could still own and operate a business and still support people who are, you know, operating and who own other small independent businesses. And that's essentially why we did it. Apart from wanting to own a shop so me and Beth could have free amazing food. You know, we're all about supporting the chain, you know, supporting the likes of people like Noah and his partner Sophie, or, you know, like our arancini is made by this amazing couple we've got Thor in Altrincham, but they live in Stoke. Like, we have fresh pasta made by this young lady called Kate, and she's amazing. And essentially what we're doing is helping them to continue running the business. I mean, it might only be like a small proportion of what they do, but it's that sort of chain. Like, if me and Beth if I can take a modest wage out of the business and we get free, really amazing food, and I can support people, you know, the growers from Organic North, and then Organic North distributes, so we're supporting like another 10 people's jobs there. You know, like all the amazing stuff that we're getting in, like Harry's Nut Butter, that's just some young lad from Dublin who's starting off like in a really like turbulent, you know, marketplace. You know, if we can help support all these people and then take like a modest cut at the end, then
was the idea for the shop before you made redundant then? Did you have to, it was kind of just right, this has happened, we need to make something happen?
Yeah, it was weird. Like I was sort of done with beer, and I sort of looked at being a teacher or like being a policeman, or, you know, I couldn't even get a job at Aldi because I'm like, you have to do these crazy Aldi, Tesco, Co-op. I couldn't get a job like working on the floor because you have to do these crazy, like, in sort of these weird tests online before you can like get an interview. And I'm like, I don't read very well. I'm like a bit dyslexic or whatever. And I didn't even get like a call back for any interview or anything. And then, yeah, so I didn't, but there's a few things that have sort of slotted in. Obviously, like the beer thing is a big thing. Like running bars and restaurants when I was younger is a big thing. And then me and Beth managed to go to Boston in February, and just the access to like amazing food in America is completely like normalized. Like Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon now, but Trader Joe's, like just getting amazing like organic, local, small produced stuff. It's just normal. Like people just it's like that's how people like live their lives. And only when the shop started to come together that we sort of realized that trip to Boston, you know, helped construct it in the background before we even knew it was a thing.
Right.
Which is cool. And then, you know, I've got loads of mates who run like really inspiring businesses, breweries, restaurants, like, you know, who do like amazing stuff just the way that they want to do it. And that, like, yeah, so I was just like, fuck it. I got a 20 grand loan, and then 12 weeks later we opened the store. And like, I still don't know if it's the right thing to do, but like by the reaction of some of the really supportive people that we've worked with, or the customers, like we might just pull it off. Which is really exciting.
How's it been the last 2 months since you've been open, with changes in restrictions and shops being able to open and not open? Like, has it kind of worked out all right for you? Like, not been many obstructions to your opening and staying open?
Well, we're a grocery store, so it's an essential part of the community. And then the masks coming in, like everyone's like super gracious and like, you know, does it and sanitizes the hands. And you know, I'm not like if someone, I've done it before. Like I ran into Co-op without my without my mask and like completely forgot about it and felt like a right dick. So if someone comes in and like, you know, they've not got the mask or whatever, like I'm not like, I'm just like, you know, we'll keep a distance, we'll keep it safe, like, you know, let's not. And yeah, it's been really good. I think everyone.
What I thought was quite interesting about that is that when I've been into this shop, you know, if you've got the kind of 2 customer kind of rule, but people were waiting outside, and you know, it was pissing down with rain, and I think to the store is that people, you know, are wanting to come to your store, and they are prepared to stand outside in the rain and wait until it's their turn. And you know, in an area where you are, where there are quite a lot of interesting shops, and there's the nice fishmongers around the corner, they said the Epicurean, all those sorts of things. That's a real testament to what you guys are doing. I think that's, you know, like I said, people sat on the wall outside waiting, someone else waiting in the rain. You know, I think that says quite a lot.
And I like to chat a lot as well. I like to waffle, so like people get like slightly annoyed. But you know, we try and be like, again, you know, if people are being really gracious with us, like we take a bit of black coffee outside for people waiting. You know, I always thank people for like, you know, being like lovely and just hanging out, and yeah, it's cool. I think, you know, the bare bones of it, like people are just really great most of the time. So the people that we get are just like lovely, and you know, they sort of. I mean, we have a few people that don't really get what we're doing, but that's totally cool. You know, if it's not for you, it's not for you, and that's fine. Like, we're not trying to, you know, have a catchment where we please everyone. We're just sort of doing what we do, and that's it. And if you get it and you enjoy it, then that's totally cool. If you don't, then that's fine as well. There's loads of other options. So,
like I said, there's not that much of a model for it in the UK. Like I said, you might have seen it in America, but there's not really a lot similar on the high.
I find it really weird that there's not a really. I mean, like the guys who have like the general stores in Manchester, like Mittal, he's amazing. But as a whole, as an independent like food retailer, there's not a lot going on. It's weird. I mean, Booths is amazing, and there's a lot in London. Obviously, there's a lot of everything in London. But like out, like, you know, I think like, you know, I'm not saying that I would do it, but I think you can have like a community-led like Bernie's sort of place in almost like every suburb, like everywhere, essentially. But it, you know, and that should be left for people who want to do it in their own community. I think we might expand at some point, but yeah, I think, you know, there's room for a really good little corner shop, like in most areas. I think. I mean, that's essentially what we are. We're a corner shop in a really nice suburb in the city. You know, it's problem. Sorry,
I think the problem we face over here is there's always like a new Aldi or Tesco Express popping up on every corner. Like, I'm from Chester, and I remember at one point there was like 4 Tesco's like in the city, and it was just, and that's not including all the other kind of shops. So people kind of end up relying heavily on just going straight to the big shop before looking to see what small, decent greengrocers are available to them. Yeah. And then almost have in their mind that it's too expensive to shop there without even trying, which is a shame. Yeah. And I think kind of almost price himself out mentally before even looking and seeing what they can do, and maybe even experimenting in the kitchen a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, we're across the road from a Co-op and a Tesco, but you know, you pick your horse, don't you? I mean, like me and Beth go to Aldi, we go to Co-op or whatever, and that, you know, it serves a purpose. But like, if you want to come and grab a couple of really good treats from us, then that's totally cool. It's like the beer sort of thing, you know. You can always have like big beer, but you can always go and grab something great. Just, you know,
can't be drinking a bottle of Speedway every night.
Yeah.
Excellent. Noah, how have you found the last few months then with Chapter?
It's been really hard. It's been really hard. We made the decision. I use we as the kind of the royal we for the brewery, because it's been only me for a lot of it. In kind of like November, October, November last year, we made the call to kind of predominantly go into cask, because that's where we were selling the most beer. People really liked our cask. Our keg was kind of sitting there. We were umming and ahhing about small pack for such a long time. We've always hand bottled it, bottle conditioned it. And when it was just myself and Damo, the other full-time member of staff, it was just exhausting. You know, on quite a big plant, to be bottle conditioning stuff, the space it takes up, the time, the energy, the effort, all those sorts of things. And of course, people aren't buying bottles really. That was the key thing. So we thought, you know what, let's concentrate predominantly on our cask, and let's do a little bit of keg here and there. You know, we'll do 8 barrels worth of cask, and then we'll do a couple of barrels of keg, and we'll just kind of tick it over like that for our tap room, for example, so that we can have something on the taps, and for kind of people that we know and people who only take keg, we can still supply them. So we made that decision, which at the time was a really sensible decision. Kind of come January and February, that decision to go predominantly into cask really hit us quite hard, because what we ended up with having was loads of cask, you know, a full cold store of cask and no outlets at all. And the people that were doing takeout were predominantly wanting to take keg, understandably, because that's got the longest life. So we were in a really tricky situation there, where we had come through December and January okay, and then we were hit with this problem. So from going from kind of cask focus to suddenly, oh, we should probably do some small pack now, was a bit of a scary situation for us, because we'd never canned. One of the biggest regrets that I've got from the not canning point of view is that myself and Tom brewed a beer called AWAS, which is an American brown. We split that half and half into keg and cask, because we knew that with our customers, especially our cask customers, we knew that they'd take that and we knew that they'd be happy with it. And suddenly we actually launched that AWAS and the Grisette in my partner's parents' back garden. We were meant to launch it, lockdown, that weekend. We had to launch it in the garden, and it was just there. And we're like, well, we're not going to be able to release this really. So we kind of ummed and ahed about what to do. We had one beer in the tank. We had 2 beers in tank that we were going to cask or keg, Taller Than a House, which is kind of one of the most popular pale ales, 3.9% pale. And we thought, there's no point packaging this in any other way than small pack. So we kind of took the risk and shoved it into can, and it absolutely flew out. And it was a real revelation to see the difference that not just the fact it was in small pack, but the fact that it was in a certain format. I mean, we ummed and ahed about 330ml over 440ml. I spoke to Sean at Polly's, who's a friend of ours, and obviously not too far away over in Mould. And I said, I really like 330s. And I spoke to the guys at Pilot as well, and saying, I like 330s. You're doing 330s. How's it going? Etc. Etc. And Pilot are forging ahead and selling their beers in 330s. But Sean said to me, do you not want to sell any beer? It's got to go in 440s. And for us, that was a really, really good decision. Not only that, but it also gives quite a lot of real estate to Boneface, who I can talk about a bit later on, for his artwork. Shoving that on a shelf, I think really made a difference for our brand. And although I love bottles, it was something that we had to do. So we went for it, and that started to work out okay. The issue is, that we didn't have a license for a tap room. So we were using temporary events notices, and the local council weren't particularly forthcoming with help for us getting our license. The local police were brilliant. They read over my application and they gave a couple of suggestions and things like that. And I can't remember her name now, but she was fantastic. And the local council kind of duly put it through, but it took 6 weeks. So we had this shitter of a fact that we suddenly had a cold store full of cask and a little bit of keg that we couldn't sell to anyone. We had small pack, which we weren't able to sell through an online shop because we didn't have a license for it. So we had to work around all sorts of strange things. I think, Ross, you bought some beers, but I had to get a temporary events notice for like a 3-day period from Monday to Friday to guarantee that they would be sold from my premises in transit and delivered to you within the window of my temporary events notice. And it was just like, there was no leeway given at all. So we had to mess around with that. What eventually ended up happening was that we got our license, but it took 6 weeks. Hambley Freeman, who are a website kind of designer company from Exeter down in Devon, where I'm from, they were brilliant with just getting the website up and running. And I think it's really slick. It's quite a simple click-through process. And they really helped us. So suddenly we went from a position where we had certain numbers that we had to hit, which we just, our projections for this year, we started again because there's no point. But we knew what we had to do to survive, and we were surpassing that thanks to the online web shop sales of our cans. We then started to think about things like mini cask and mini keg. We decided to call it mini cask because we felt that mini keg was giving the customer a little bit of a almost like a false idea of what they maybe be expecting. So we went for mini cask because a lot of the beer was bright, and that was coming from our casks. And we got through a lot of stock that way. And then we were actually, when we were doing our canning runs, subsequent to that, we were putting basically what was left in the tank, we were then putting into mini cask. So then they were kind of proper cask conditioned beers, and they were selling really well because nobody was going out. We had such fantastic kind of traffic through the web shop. That was really, really positive, and we were putting lots of different beers into can, beers that we were been meaning to do something for ages, but didn't have the time to do it. And then the time kind of stepped back from the brewery, not being in there, not doing sales, not doing administration, not doing the brewing, not doing the packaging. This weird kind of freedom gave me that time to think about what we need to do and what we should do. So that was all really good fun, and that was really exciting. Getting the artwork from the original squares to the extended artwork to getting the design. We use a guy called Andy Heggs, who does the art by volume stuff. He was then taking Boneface's amazing artwork, manipulating it into the can label design and the renders, and we worked with him on different ideas. So, I mean, little things for us, like I've seen a lot of kind of people criticizing when it's not got anything on it. It's a bit kind of omnipolo. It doesn't tell you what it is. But we wanted it to have that almost book-like feel of the, the binding of a book. So the spine of a book. So it is there. And if you set them three aside in a fridge, you've got a panoramic thing of the beer and its cover together. And that was something that we worked through with Andy and Boneface and got that up and running. So we were actually moving in quite a positive way, and we were getting through the beer and we started brewing again. And then suddenly the pubs opened, and I thought that would be really good for us, and it was a disaster. As soon as the pubs opened on the 4th of July, our online sales just plummeted. Like, we had our worst month throughout the whole pandemic in July. And whether that was because, completely understandably, I know, for example, the grapes, which has only just opened recently, they had stock from before lockdown. So obviously you're going to work through that, and that's really important that you continue to use. You don't want to be chucking money away for no reason. But that really hit us quite hard, because suddenly all of our online sales dropped off, but the sales on cask and keg didn't pick up again. So that was a really unexpected turn of events for us in terms of the pandemic in that respect. But it slowly started to pick up again, and with pubs opening. And I think a lot of the smaller pubs were a lot more realistic and a lot more careful about opening than some of the bigger chains. This is where the libelous thing, isn't it? It comes in where my biggest fear was saying something libelous. But I think it's true though. I think a lot of the pubs that I love, they were very much more conscientious about opening, taking it carefully, seeing what happened when the bigger boys opened, seeing what a shit show that would be, and then opening and accommodating those sorts of ideas. But it started to kind of pick up, and now with pubs opening up again, we've put more stuff into cask. We've people are buying more keg, which is something again which we said we've never really been focused on. But people want that security of a keg over a cask, which again is understandable. But it's a very weird game for us at the moment. We made the decision to go into cask predominantly in November, as I said. Now we're thinking maybe we should be more keg and small pack. All of the small pack people that are absolutely chock-a-block, as you'd expect, because everyone's kind of taking those decisions to go into small pack to basically future-proof. And from what we've heard this week, future-proofing is really important, because there's going to be another lockdown. If it's only 6 people now, I mean, how pubs are going to stay open again if it gets any worse? So we've got to think about that. We were just about. I brewed a beer last week to put predominantly into keg. Now I'm thinking if that's the right thing to do at all, because it might be nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a strange one, really. And in terms of, you say what you like about the government, and I often do, but the furlough scheme has been a real lifesaver for us, because although I couldn't go on furlough, we were able to put our member of staff on furlough, bring them back for a couple of days here and there, and put them back on furlough, and that's been fantastic. It's going to be costly in the grand scheme of things, but it's been a real benefit to us. And I think without that, I mean, a lot of breweries would have gone. A lot of business. So it's been a mixed bag. I was kind of hoping, and for the first couple of weeks of this whole disaster, I really enjoyed myself, because I almost had kind of relaxed a little bit. But the time and the freedom has actually made it less relaxing as it's gone on, because we don't know what's going to happen. We're meant to be moving, we're meant to be doing all these sorts of things, and they're now put on the back burner. But I think one of the biggest things has been the customers that we've dealt with for a long time, the people that have, we've gone into a new format, which has been terrible, and people have bought into that. You've got people like Will buying our beers on what I hope is merit. And, you've got those people that are buying beers, and we've got new customers because we're in can. And we've had bottle shops before say to us, come back to us when you do can, we're not interested in bottles. And now they're buying. And that's a little bit annoying, because it's not that dissimilar, the beer, but it's a format that they need to sell.
Yeah.
It's just been a very strange situation. But the best thing has been the customers, and we've had the tap room, which, we're in a very strange place. We're just off the M56. We're half an hour walk from any kind of public transport. We're between Runcorn and Frodsham. There's not much going for the site that we're in, apart from the great people that we share the site with. It's a weird one, but the tap that we opened on the 4th of July, the tap then that we opened on the 15th of August, and then the bank holiday, and then last weekend, we've had a consistent amount of people. We've been very careful with our risk assessments, which I think you can still view on our website, about how many people we're allowed in and how we're doing it. And people have been so tolerant, like the people who sat outside Will's place. People have been tolerant of our insistence on getting track and trace, being tolerant of the fact that we're only kind of 2 people really running the bar. And they've been coming back. And the first one we had, it rained, and there were people sat outside with a pint, hoods up, drinking cask, because they want to support what we're doing. And it's those little things that have really given us the drive to kind of to keep going. Really, it's been quite an interesting, quite a humbling time in a lot of ways, and to have that support has been great. But it's still really scary because we just can't predict it. Even when we're trying to predict, like I said, we scrapped our plans to move and to expand, but now we're looking at spreadsheets going, well, how much are we going to sell next month? I mean, my plan next month was to sell more than this month, but with what's happening now, this reduction of freedoms, who knows?
It seems to be like the scariest things for like breweries like yourselves and small businesses is you spent the last 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever, adapting to changes basically on a weekly, daily basis.
Yeah.
And there's still kind of, well, it's definitely not certain. I said it could change again next week. It'll change again the week after that. And like I said, you've obviously done well adapting to that. Is there anything you've brought in over the past few months that you think you could continue and you will keep in with the brewery? Like the small pack, something like that?
Yeah, the small pack's a massive one. That's something which, again, we would be doing more of, but the uptake in small pack from so many breweries has meant that getting stuff canned with our own canning line is tricky. And again, if you look at someone like Polly's, for example, they've got their canning line and they're banging out great beers all the time, and they're able to keep up with that. We don't have that luxury at the moment, but the small pack is definitely something we're going to be doing. The merchandise side of it, t-shirts, the artwork, glassware, and I think that the taps, I mean, we used to do them once a month, and we're going to start doing them twice a month. But again, it's a small team. It's currently only me and my partner Sophie. When she's a teacher, so it's difficult to kind of say, by the way, you're knackered with all these weird things. Do you mind coming in on a Saturday as well? So that's another thing. We are going to be doing that, and we're going to try and make that a more regular thing, getting kind of food trucks up and things like that. But I guess that's one of the major benefits. It's the first time I've ever really thought of it as a benefit, is that we are a small team. The small team has always been really hard because although we're very tight knit, it's very difficult to run a 10-barrel plant with a 10-barrel brewery with all the paraphernalia that comes with it, just with the 2 people. But it's been really useful in this situation because it means that change can be very quick, or it can be very slow. We can slow things right down if we need to and still tick over. I kind of feel sorry for people who've got bigger operations, and that must be such a headache for them at the moment to try and work out what they need to be doing just to maintain their overheads. But like I said, I think for us, the key thing is the small pack, the brew pale ales, because that's what people seem to like.
Everyone loves the pale ale.
We keep forgetting to brew pale ales. So doing that, and keep the tap room going, and it will only be outside, but again, it's outside for as long as the weather holds. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing, just trying to keep it as positive and as malleable and changeable as we can possibly make it. Someone's
asked, are chapter t-shirts available online?
Chapter t-shirts are available online. I say that. Actually, they're not. That's my plan for tomorrow, is to get the chapter t-shirts online. We've got a few.
There it is, the exclusive.
Yeah, we got a new one. You know what? I might even do a Beernomicon discount. I'll write that down because I forget.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, Callum Scott, thanks for the comments. I don't know how this works, but that's what you say on like YouTube, right? It's like, cheers, Callum. Thanks for the support.
Smash that subscribe button and
press the subscribe button. Like, get YouTube to pay us cash. All good. All good. I might just become an influencer, and then it'd be fine. Totally fine.
You have to stop drinking witbier then if you're going to be an influencer.
I know, yeah, Jesus Christ.
You sneak the Neepers.
Drink beer. Drink beer from Morrison's. Let's not go on to that.
No. But basically, yes, beers are available online. We've got glassware online. The posters, again, the amazing prints from Boneface, they're online. And now you've reminded me, I will get the t-shirts online tomorrow. We got a new set of t-shirts based on her musket. They'll be up and ready tomorrow.
Also purchasable from your friendly neighbourhood Bernie's grocery store.
Beers are also purchasable from your friendly Portish Bernie's grocery store.
Get a nice beer snap to go with it.
If you want to probably come to the end now, so is there anything you want to plug? Any social media? I know you've just deleted your Twitter, Will, but your Instagram and all that.
We're doing I think it's probably a big thing for us when we all went to school. So we're doing like a little harvest festival. So yeah, just, you know, when you in school where you like donated, people brought cans of mushy peas in and baked beans or whatever. We're doing like a little festival around that, like 23rd to the 26th. So we're just figuring it out now. I'm doing like an online beer and cheese matching with Crafty Cheeseman, who's like our cheese supplier. Just trying to like weave in a couple of events that we can do with like social distancing and stuff, and then there'll be, you know, a voluntary like donation to like everything that we donate is going to be to the Mustard Tree, which is like a homeless charity that I used to volunteer for like a couple of years ago. I used to do the cooking there like once a month. So yeah, we're just sort of constructing that at the moment. Yeah, and then yeah, I might come down to store, support young producers, support people like Noah. Yeah, that's about it. Welcome to Bernie's.
You say that what's in, don't you? You just get a thumbs up and then
yeah.
Now
Yeah,
I'd just like to say,
turning the open sign around
Yeah,
now.
no, apparently on social, like, some of the people who follow us, they're like, I really like that, which is, yeah, it's funny, but I'm into it. So we'll carry on.
now I'd just like to say thank you both for being a part of Cvlt of Independence and all that.
yeah, definitely.
It's a cracking beers come out of it.
Mm.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun, and you know the other two beers that are coming out. I know you've got Donald Zoko's fantastic sour, which I've got in the fridge. Looking forward to trying that. And you've got the salt beer coming out at some point. So
Coffee IPA.
yeah.
Right, before Tom descends into pure darkness, I think we'll leave it. So thanks for watching. Thanks to Will and Noah for chatting to us.
Thank you.
We'll have something with Don Zoko and Salt coming up soon on YouTube and Twitter and all that. So yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, see you in a bit.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers,
Bye.